Welcome to the True Crime Cafe. I'm Becky.
And I'm Angie, and you won't believe the case I have for you today.
So, Angie, last week you promised me murder, and I am super excited to hear what you have for me.
I have murder adjacent.
Okay.
Okay, so before I start with the case, what was it? 2 or 3 months ago, I found this website, uncovered.com.
Yes.
And very, very quickly fell down the rabbit hole of looking at everything. Very, very quickly sent you the link, and I'm like, why are we not on this website?
Yes, and we both are.
And now we both are. The premise behind uncovered.com is if you go to their website, you can search cases that you can follow. So the idea is to get these cases on the website with as much information as possible. So like a lot of the cases that are there to start with, when they first get uploaded, they have very minimal information. Some of them only have the person's name and like their personal details like eye color, hair color, that type stuff. But basically it's crowdsourcing to get the information for these cases so that hopefully some of these cases can be solved, whether it's missing person, murder, or whatnot. We love that website and we're on that website. I'm on that website multiple times a week. I have submitted, I think, 2 case files. You can sign up to create a case file, which would include general information, timeline, the names and places that are involved in the case. So you're basically building a case file and then you submit it to them and they add it to the website. I'm sure there's a process they go through, verifying stuff as much as they can. But it's a very cool website. And if you are interested in feeling like you're actually able to help get more information about a crime out to the general public, make sure you go to uncovered.com and sign up. They have a free account, I believe.
I started with the free account and then I was like, I need more.
I didn't even sign up for the free account. I just went straight to the paid account.
Not shocking at all.
No. So the case I have for you today, I actually found while scrolling through uncovered.com. Okay?
That is awesome.
It is no secret that Becky and I both live in South Carolina. We've made mention of that numerous times. So I spend a lot of time on Uncovered looking at the South Carolina cases. So the case today is from uncovered.com and it is a South Carolina case. And it is more local for me than it is for Becky, meaning where it happened is closer on the map to where I'm at versus where Becky's at.
Yes.
Still not gonna get into exact where we're at.
Right.
You know.
There's only one in my small town and I'm obsessed with it and I kind of want to ask about it, but then I kind of don't because I don't want to be a target because it's a scary one. Yeah.
I get that. You'll have to share the link with me for that one so I can deep dive. Maybe I'll look into it for you.
That would be awesome. We should just swap cases.
Yeah, except for you can't have this one.
No, not this one.
This one's mine.
So let me hear about it.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about what happened to Brandy. Okay. So in early 2005, Brandy Hanna was living with her boyfriend of 6 years, Michael Ray McAdams. Staying with them was Garland Eugene Lankford, who at the time was separated from his wife. He was crashing at Brandy, and Michael, her boyfriend Michael, went by the name Ray, went by his middle name. So I believe Ray and Garland goes by the nickname Zeke. So you'll hear that throughout the episode. So I believe that Ray and Zeke worked together and that's how they knew each other.
Okay.
However, Brandy and Zeke began a relationship. Yeah. Brandy fell in love with Zeke. When Ray found out, he obviously kicked Zeke out. He offered Brandy to be able to stay. She chose to go with Zeke.
It would have been really awkward for her to stay.
Mm-hmm. So in April of 2005, Brandy and Zeke got an apartment, moved in together. However, Zeke ended up going back to his wife and kids, leaving Brandy living alone in the apartment.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm. On May 20th, 2005, Brandy, who was 35 at the time, worked her shift at Alex's restaurant in North Charleston, South Carolina. The only thing that seemed out of the ordinary was a customer remembered Brandy getting a call on the restaurant's phone that seemed to upset and frighten her. Speculation was it was Zeke's wife. That's
Makes
speculation.
sense.
I didn't find anything in any of the articles I looked at that confirmed that that's who it was.
Historically, as we've covered cases where there's a estranged wife and a new girlfriend and all the things we've seen on Dateline and all the shows and yeah.
So Brandy's mother, Donna Parent, also worked at the same restaurant. Brandy was getting off work when her mom was coming in. So they talked very briefly, and then they talked on the phone around 5:30 that evening. And Brandy had mentioned that Zeke was supposed to visit the apartment that evening.
Okay.
Brandy, apparently from what I read, Brandy felt like Zeke would realize he made a mistake going back to his wife and would come back to her. Like she was in love with him and it was totally heartbroken when he went back.
Well, yeah.
Brandy also texted with a friend of hers around 8 p.m. They were going to go shopping for bathing suits, but she was waiting on her friend to get off work.
Okay.
And then she also texted with Zeke just after 10 p.m. Shortly after 10:30 p.m., her friend showed up at her apartment. No answer. She knocked on the door. There was no answer. She called Brandy's cell phone, heard it ringing inside the apartment, assumed that Brandy had fallen asleep and left. No reason to think anything was amiss. So after not being able to get a hold of Brandy on Saturday or Sunday, and Brandy not showing up for her work shift on Monday, May 23rd, her mother tried to report her missing. Okay, yeah. I mean, if I don't talk to my kids every single day, I talk to them more often than not, though. So if all of a sudden I was going 3-4 days without hearing from them or being able to get a hold of them and them missing their work shift when they never do, I would be concerned too.
Yeah, mine live at home. So, and I work from home. So if I don't talk to them, it's kind of weird. But if they did not live at home and I did not talk to them at least once a day, I would be going to hunt them down. Like, I don't care if I'm 90 and they're in their, 60s or 70s or however much the age difference is. I'm still going to be a helicopter mom with my walker with the horn on it. Beep, beep. Have you seen my son?
Right. Where is he? Tell him I'm looking for him.
I'm down at the senior center playing bingo.
So because Brandy was an adult and there was no evidence of foul play, the police didn't believe anything had happened. So Brandy's mom got a hold of Zeke, asked him to meet her at the apartment. He still had a key, but not to go in until she got there. So she got to the apartment. He was walking out of the apartment.
What?
So he had been in there. He supposedly said that he wanted to go in and check things out because he did not want her mother to see something horrible. Yeah, her phone was at the apartment. That Friday before, when she was leaving work, she got a to-go cup of like iced tea. That cup was still sitting on her counter. The blanket was still on the couch. It looked like she had been just chilling on the couch and just gotten up and left and was coming right back.
Okay.
Finally, on May 27th, a missing persons report was filed.
How many days later was this?
The last time there was confirmed communication with Brandy was May 20th, so 7 days later.
Holy cow.
Okay. When questioned by the police, both Ray and Zeke had alibis, because obviously we know that 99% of the time, the spouse or the significant other is always questioned first.
Oh, right. Because they're the closest to the victim in most cases.
Yes. So Zeke told authorities that he was supposed to meet up with Brandy, but ended up having to work late, so they didn't connect. Ray said he had been at a bar, which they were able to verify. A neighbor of Brandy's witnessed Brandy getting into a red truck with white stripes on the side and a white hockey mask on the front grill between 9 and 9:30 Friday evening. The red truck with the white stripes, those were the same trucks that they drove for the company that they work for. So, and apparently Ray had the hockey mask, like the Jason Voorhees mask mask from Friday the
Yeah.
13th. His truck was the one that had the mask on it.
Okay.
Okay. So there were also multiple calls made that placed the focus of the investigation on Ray.
Okay.
So there were like 3 calls, I think, made to the police about trying to implicate Ray in this, whatever, her missing, because at that point she was still missing person.
Okay.
Further investigation revealed that despite saying he had worked late, Zeke's timesheets show that he actually got off work at 4 p.m. on the day Brandy went missing.
Wow.
Phone logs and text messages also did not match Zeke's version of events either. When he was confronted, Zeke admitted that he, air quotes around this, may have gone to Brandy's apartment on the night she disappeared. So despite not having a body, police believe Brandy was a victim of homicide.
Okay.
And that's how they investigated the case, as if it was a homicide. In 2006, Ray died of a heart attack. So even if he was responsible for the disappearance, they wouldn't have been able to charge him. He had passed.
Right. So it's what, like a year later?
Yes. Sergeant Ron, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Lacker, has been working the case since 2010. And he said that the police believe there are 2 other local people who have a connection to her death in addition to Zeke.
Okay.
So the phone number that, remember the calls that were made to the police to try and implicate Ray, those phone calls were traced back to a phone number that belonged to Langford's sister.
Okay.
The phone number that was used to make those calls was actually belonged to Zeke's sister.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't know if it was her that made the calls or if it was him using her phone that made the calls. Regardless.
Either way, it's super sketchy.
There have been searches. So like, if you know anything about North Charleston area, Charleston is where the Civil War started. There's an old Navy base that's no longer in use. It's been turned into kind of like a green space. And you can go out there, 4th of July, we used to go out there all the time and watch fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
During one search of that area, there was a shoe found that, based on the tag in the shoe, was from 2006. Brandy's friend said, yes, she owned a shoe like that. No way to determine if it was actually Brandy's shoe. Okay. Brandy Hanna was legally declared dead on August 26, 2013. Again, it's been investigated as a homicide basically from the start.
Yeah.
They just don't have a body. But their investigation, based on Brandy's routine of communication with family and friends, that type stuff, use of her bank account, all of that, they believe she's dead. She was legally declared dead in August of 2013, which is 8 years after this happened. You look like you wanna ask something.
So did they check? I guess there's no point in checking for DNA because I don't know, like inside the apartment.
Check. Well, here's the thing. So the apartment where she had rented, not in the best neighborhood, it was a month-to-month lease. So a month after she disappeared, the landlord called her mother and said, if you want her stuff, you need to come get it, or else I'm putting it out on the street. I need to rent the apartment.
Wow.
But even if there had been DNA, like from Zeke or even Ray, that wouldn't have necessarily proved anything because she had been in a romantic relationship with both of them. Zeke had lived in that apartment at one point in time, not for very long. If they moved out in April and by May, he had already gone back to his wife.
Right. And plus there could have been trace DNA. Like if she saw him on her way home and they hugged and she touched her cup or something.
Yep.
The intricacies of DNA there.
Yeah. So, like I said, even if they had checked for DNA, unless DNA was found that belonged to somebody that, like, way out of left field, it wouldn't have really been helpful in the case. A little bit of a twist.
Okay. I love a twist.
I know. In 2016, so that is 11 years after she went missing.
Yeah.
Langford was arrested and charged with obstruction of justice for willingly providing false and misleading statements regarding Brandy's disappearance.
What?
Because remember, he told them that he had to work late. He told them that he was supposed to meet up with her, but never met up with her. He was found to have a connection to the phone number that was used to make the calls that were trying to implicate Ray. So in 2018, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2 years in jail and 2 years of probation. Not justice by any stretch of the imagination, because, I mean, you have to kind of believe, like, for her to just drop out of sight, not talk to her mom, not talk to her friends, not show up for work, you have to believe that she's dead.
Yeah.
So not justice as far as what he did to Brandy. However, you also have to remember murder has no statute of limitations.
This is true.
If her body is ever found, which I really hope it is, I want her mother to be able to have somewhere to go.
Or just some closure, period.
I think her mother's gotten a sense of closure by her being declared dead. It's kind of like it leaves the what if kind of there because there's been no body found, but it provides closure because after that long you can start to grieve the loss. Like you know what I'm saying? I'm glad you know what I'm saying because I'm having a hard time explaining it. Like
it helps with the grief process. Yes. Like the stages of grief.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, that's the story of a local-ish case for us.
Now, there are so many possibilities though, because so many what ifs. What if she was sex trafficked? What if you put her in like the alligator swamp? Like the girl who was just like, there was someone like not far from my house who was just discovered, who they've been looking for years and was buried in somebody's backyard. And there were rumors though that they just dropped her in the alligator swamp.
Yeah. And you have to remember, like Charleston is on the coast, basically. Like downtown Charleston is a peninsula where Charleston Harbor and stuff is. There are 3 major interstates that they could have hopped on. Like there's I-26, there's I-526, and then if you jump on 526, that takes you, or I'm sorry, 26, that takes you to 95, north or south.
Yeah.
So there are possibilities. However, I'm not going to say sex trafficking wasn't around in 2005. I'm not going to say that it wasn't prevalent, but I don't think it was as common then as it is now.
Yeah,
like
I agree
now,
with that.
Yeah, I was reading something the other day that mentioned the county you live in, the county I live in, and then a third county kind of like formed a triangle, and they call it the sex trafficking triangle.
I can believe it.
But you hear about it more often these days.
But this is interesting because 2005 was also the year that Natalie Holloway went missing.
And that came up in the research that I was reading. That was all over every news outlet's front page, including the local newspaper here. And Brandy's mom called the newspaper and was like, why is my daughter's case not in the newspaper? Like, why? Right. I get this other girl went missing, but I mean, basically it was the way I interpreted what the article said. It was basically, she called them, I understand that this other girl was missing, she's young, but my daughter is missing and it's a local case. Why are you as the local newspaper not covering it? So they did eventually, but yeah, it was. I remember, like, I lived in South Carolina. I'm trying to think, when did I move here? I think I moved to South Carolina in 2006, and I had never heard of this case. Never.
Wow.
I've never heard of it. You know how like some newspapers will do a decade later, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. I never heard of it until I went to uncovered.com. So
I am vaguely familiar with the idea of the case only because I saw it on like one of the true crime TV shows. And I remember Yeah, I remember like the shoe in the water. That's about all I remembered,
Yeah.
And when you said that, it like, oh, I've seen this somewhere.
It was on Disappeared, and I believe it was on either Dateline or 48 Hours.
Yeah. When you watch so many of these shows, they kind of run together. No offense to anybody whose family is involved in anything. Because
it's
yeah.
It makes it harder to keep up with where you've seen it and if a specific case, the things about that case are for a case that you watched are just kind of like paralleling cases that you've watched before. So I get it. Like between podcasts, TV shows, books, it does get difficult to keep the facts straight for the different cases,
I've talked before about my husband being a retired firefighter. And so anything having to do with firefighting, we're right there. And just one day last week, we were sitting here while I'm working, my laptop, he's at the other end of my desk, and we're watching one of those shows. And he's like, oh, this is the one about the firefighter, this such and such. And I'm like, no. This is the firefighter, this and that. And he goes, nah. And we were both wrong. It was a completely different case involving a firefighter. And I was like, wow, how many firemen are murdered? Like, I haven't looked up statistics, but
yeah. No, but I get what you're saying. Like, my husband and I will be watching something and I'll be like, we saw this. And he's like, no, we didn't. And I'm like, okay, well, then I saw this.
Yeah. That happens to us because I keep things on the background, whether it's like the TV in front of me or I have an echo device behind me that plays Dateline on repeat on Spotify and different podcasts. Wicked Deeds, who we met on Uncovered.
Yeah.
Those on Crime Junkies, all the different podcasts. And sometimes I'll hear about a case on a podcast and then I'm seeing it on TV and I'm like, oh, I didn't see this before, but I think I knew what's going to happen.
Yeah. So that wasn't, technically it's not proven that it's murder, but it was murder adjacent because they believe that she was murdered. Sorry if that doesn't satisfy my requirement for murder, but I was very intrigued because, like I said, it is a local-ish case for both of us.
Yeah.
And it was one I had never heard of. Oh.
Well, it satisfied my curiosity and I will definitely be researching more. I will definitely visit the Uncovered page about this.
Yes. I don't know that the Uncovered page has the timeline built for this case yet, but yeah, definitely check it out.
Definitely. Thanks, Angie.
Anytime.
Stay caffeinated.
And join us next time for another cup of crime.